everyone, settle down, ladies and gentlemen, settle down. Quiet, everyone. Now then, I have read your most recent essays, and I am amazed to report some progress, although
Thank you.
some of us still tend to favor form over content, Miss Linda.
Oh, actually, it's Linda, with a G.
Yes, of course. Linda.
No. I don't see what the problem is. Every other professor manages to pronounceify my name.
Maybe the pronunciation of your precious name is not the sole focus of Dr. Dillerman's life. Maybe Dr. Dillerman is not like every other professor. Maybe some of us are just different.
Well, it seems the artichoke is steamed.
Quiet, please. Yes, we goats lack upper front teeth, which accounts for the mispronunciation, Miss Linda.
I mean, he's trying to say Galinda, but, a goat is going to go, Gah. I mean, to me, it sounded like Galinda. But, everyone ends up calling her Glinda anyways. And I think it's a better name. But also, a side note, if my artichoke was that green, I think I'd probably send it back. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Cinema Psych Podcast, the podcast where psychology meets film. I am your host, Dr. Alex Swan, and today we are gonna defy some gravity. That's right, we are talking Wicked. Came out last year, 2024, as of this recording, and it was originally titled Wicked Part 1, but I think when they decided not to call the second film Wicked Part 2, but instead Wicked for Good, they dropped the Part 1 from the marketing of this film and where it is. And, if you think IMDb is the end-all authority on these matters, then yes, they use the word singularly as Wicked. Now, of course, you are likely familiar with this phenomenon. This play is what it was first. Of course, it's based in the L. Frank Baum's world of The Wizard of Oz. So it's based in Oz, and the story itself is essentially an immediate prequel to 1939's Wizard of Oz. But the whole story and the world and everything existed well before even the 1939 film came out. And so just all of these characters have existed in literature, and it took the play to bring some of these characters to life, to bring a different aspect to both Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, and Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, who are both characters in The Wizard of Oz, but are one-dimensional, if you will, and one-dimensional in the sense that, of course, Elphaba is the main antagonist to Dorothy, and Glinda is the helpful guide. But beyond that, they really have no other characterizations, and of course, it at the end of The Wizard of Oz, it's the people that play many of the characters that Dorothy encounters in Oz are people from her real life. So it's like, was that real or was that fake? Wicked, when it burst onto the scene as a Broadway play, really, brought multi-dimensionality to many of these characters, played by Elphaba, played by the great Adele Dazeem. I'm just kidding. Dina Menzel, and Glinda, played by Kristen Chenoweth, received many accolades for their portrayals. Now, in the film, which again came out in 2024, Wicked for Good comes out on the heels of this podcast episode's release. Wicked for Good, both of these films essentially cut the play in half. So take a 3-hour play that has an intermission and you essentially get a 6-hour movie, because Wicked is 2 hours and 40 minutes. And I believe Wicked for Good is 2 hours plus as well. Now, to make two films with more than enough plot, I gotta add some stuff to it. So there's some things that are in the movies that are not in the play. And in this episode, we're going to do our very best to not give away any kind of spoilers, just in case you haven't heard of the play, seen the play, you don't know anything about what's going to be in Wicked for Good. I know very little about the end of the play. I've never seen it, and I know very little about what is going to be in Wicked for Good, and I kind of want to make it, I kind of want to keep it that way. Probably going to go see it in and around my daughter's birthday, because we did that last year for her birthday. So as a Thanksgiving release, it is appropriate. So let's talk a little bit about the production of this movie, as I do with all the films, and then we'll get to our wonderful guest, a returning guest, who is a fan of all things musicals. The director of this film is John M. Chu, and he is also the director of Wicked for Good. I believe the writers are the same as well. So we have Winnie Holzman, Dana Fox, and Gregory Maguire as the top billed writers of this screenplay. And of course, we have the wonderful actors that appear in all of these beloved characters. Cynthia Erivo plays Elphaba, clad all in green. And the makeup in this film is phenomenal, because her makeup makes it truly look like she is green, like she has green skin, as the character of Elphaba is meant to have. Ariana Grande plays Galinda, and she's interestingly credited as Ariana Grande Butera, which is her, I guess, legal name. I don't know, but she's billed as Ariana Grande for most things, as you'll be able to find her. And these two are phenomenal actresses, but also so good with the singing. Jeff Goldblum plays the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Michelle Yeoh plays Madame Morrible, who is quite horrible. Jonathan Bailey plays Fiyero. Ethan Slater plays Bach. Marissa Bode plays Elphaba's sister, Nessa Rose, who becomes the Wicked Witch of the East, the witch that dies at the beginning of The Wizard of Oz because Dorothy's house falls on top of her. Peter Dinklage provides his voice for the goat professor at Shiz University, Dr. Dillamond, one of the few voice roles of animals in this film, because this is a major plot point, the backstory about animals and their place in Oz. Andy Nyman plays Governor Throp. You may know him from Peaky Blinders, Jungle Cruise, and a few other movies. Bowen Yang has a bit role as Fanny. Bronwyn James plays Shen Shen. Both Fanny and Chen Chen are two people that I can't tell if they are just old friends of Galinda's, or they just like are immediately attracted to her popularity and just like want to be in that space. Difficult to know. And maybe if you know, let me know in the comments or feedback on this movie. And then there are several other actors who play small roles. Now, this film won 2 Oscars. One for Best Achievement in Production Design, because Oz looks phenomenal, and Best Achievement in Costume Design, because the costumes are also phenomenal. So those are the 2. Now, there were a lot of acting nominations, editing, all that sound, all of that. But it won what I think it should have won, which is makeup and costumes, which, of course, is what you would want in a movie that takes place in a fantastical realm. So to set the stage for you, before we jump into this episode, we are in Oz, and Elphaba and Galinda are new students at Shiz University, where they meet Madame Morrible, a professor of magic, and they're both there to learn magic and be powerful wizards in the mold, we'll say, of the Wizard of Oz. And so let's jump in and maybe feel a little popular. My guest host today is Dr. Jill Swirsky. Jill is currently an assistant professor of psychology at Holy Family University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She's a developmental psychologist by training, but her research interests range from adolescent social development to feminist psychology to the psychology of popular culture. Hey, the right place. She joined us earlier in 2025 to chat about The Sound of Music, which was episode 92. Definitely go listen to that one after you listen to this one. Jill, welcome back to the show.
It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. And before we start talking about the psych of Wicked, I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the film in general, like the filmmaking, directing, acting, the plot, how you, as a fan of musicals, considering the blog that we talked about previously, and you'll mention again at the end of the show, on musicals and other pop culture stuff for Psych, your musicals course, and the fact that you were on talking about The Sound of Music, the play, right? Wicked. What did you think?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying not only am I a musical fan, I've always been a Wizard of Oz fan.
Wizard of Oz fan. Excellent.
So I was a fan of Wicked before it was cool to be a fan of Wicked. And so I saw I don't remember when I first saw the play, but it was a while ago. And Wicked is an extra special one for me because this is what really got me into my pop culture research. It's what kind of launched my current line of scholarship and the musical theater class. I was driving one day, listening to my music, my Wicked soundtrack in my car, and there's a line that Glinda says, "Are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them?"
Right.
I was like, "Oh my God, that's nature versus nurture," and everything kind of spiraled from there. So this was really the show that started it all for me. So Wicked's an extra special one for me.
And I want to just jump in there real quick. After you mentioned that in the Sound of Music episode, and after we were done recording, you asked, "What about Wicked?" Because it was fresh on your mind, right? Because you had just told that story about listening to the soundtrack in your car. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Wicked for Good's coming out in November of this year. And yeah, let's do it. So here we are. Here we are doing it.
Amazing. In terms of the directing plot, I will admit I'm not an Ariana Grande fan. I'm not a fan. I feel very ambivalent about Ariana Grande.
That's fine. Me too.
And so I was really deeply uncertain of how she'd be as Glinda.
Okay.
She's better than I thought she would be. I'm not sure that I love her, but I don't really there's nothing I can complain about. She's not my favorite, but I thought she did the role justice. I thought you could tell that she worked very closely with Kristen Chenoweth in training.
Oh yeah,
to
absolutely.
Kind of, studied her movements. Speaking of Kristen Chenoweth, the cameos by Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, who were the original Glinda and Elphaba on Broadway. I thought the cameos were very cool and very fun.
And they got to sing their own song, and they did a wink and a nod to the camera, which I thought was good because, with film, unless you're trying to, you don't want to break the fourth wall. And this is, of course, not a film where you do break the fourth wall, but there is no fourth wall when you do stage plays. The fourth wall is the audience, and you do engage with them in many ways, in many plays. Throughout the history of it. So I really enjoyed that little, that it's subtle, but it's there.
Yeah, and there were lots of little nods to their original roles. There's nods to Wizard of Oz. There's one point during, I think it's the song Popular, I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on that, but Glinda picks up a pair of red heels and taps them 3 times. There are lots of very small nods that you wouldn't pick up on unless you were watching very, very closely. I thought that the movie was visually stunning. I thought the scenery was absolutely beautiful. I thought the cast was great. I think Jeff Goldblum is hilarious. I thought he was a great choice.
I think he may have been the only choice in my mind. Now, that's obviously hindsight bias here, but because the original wizard in the 1939 Wizard of Oz, and I'm not going to look up who it was, so I apologize to Wizard of Oz fans who know exactly who that actor's name is, was very eccentric. He's very goofy. And as soon as they figured out that he was the man behind the curtain and then he was stammering and everything, like 180 degree difference between the persona that he was playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to Jeff Goldblum and it's just like, he's that guy incarnate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also thought that whoever decided to have Kayla Settle, I'm not 100% sure how to say her name, but she played the headmistress.
Mm-hmm.
She was in The Greatest Showman. She's the bearded lady, and she's a phenomenal singer. So I thought whoever made the decision to cast her in a musical and not have her sing was just rude.
Yeah, I feel like, I could not pick her out of anything. So my apologies to the folks listening who are musical theater fans. She gets a lot of like sing-songy lines, but no actual singing. Yeah.
Yes. And she's such a powerhouse voice that was an interesting decision to me. I wonder if she'll get to sing in the next one. I don't know. Guess we'll find out.
Interesting.
One other thing that I thought was noteworthy about the movie versus kind of the traditional show is that Marissa Bode, who plays Nessa Rose, is the first fully wheelchair-bound actress to play Nessa Rose. So in the play, the actress is typically somebody who uses a wheelchair, but who can also walk. Okay. There's a scene, a little bit of a spoiler, but not really. There's a scene later on in the show, which will be in part 2 of the movies, where Elphaba enchants Nessa to be able to walk a few steps. So the actress would always have to be able to walk those few steps. Marissa Bode is fully wheelchair bound. And so they get around that. They do a quirky thing to get around that in the movie, which I just thought was an interesting update. Yeah,
and to be quite honest, the whole leg situation is very important for the entire story into The Wizard of Oz. A whole house dropping on it, but only the legs are visible, everything, all that stuff. I enjoyed the visuals as well, and I said in the intro that these are the 2 Oscars that the film won earlier this year, both costuming and makeup, or set design, excuse me. And so it looks as though, and there are probably some scenes where you're like, yeah, that's a bit fake. Maybe the high grass field for the Wizard and I song looks a little fake, but everywhere else and everything else looks phenomenal. It looks like a different fantastical place. Like, this is a place called Oz. And it looked far more fantastical than they were able to conjure and do in 1939 for The Wizard of Oz, when they had just a lot of painted backdrops because they were on a soundstage. This looked great because they looked like they had some outdoor sets. They looked like they had a bunch of really cool indoor sets. Then they had, I doubt they filmed on like the Star Wars volume, which is like this 360 degree place, but they look like they had some green or blue screen places. But, it looked really good. And I also said that the voices, especially Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, like chills every time that they sang.
Yes. Well cast.
And so I'm looking forward to these new songs, I suppose, that you said you had done a search to see, because there's not a lot of plot left for Wicked for Good. Not a lot of plot left. Yeah, I said in the intro they took a 3-hour play and they're making it 6 hours, close to 6 hours, 5.5 hours or whatever it is. So you're gonna have to add stuff. And your Google search yielded how many new songs?
2 new songs, both written by Stephen Schwartz. Okay. One for Elphaba and one for Glinda.
Which I think showcases those 2 actors and their voices well, right? It would be weird, I think, if they added songs, but they didn't give it to the 2 leads.
Sure. Yeah. And I will say that the first movie really does follow the plot of the play pretty closely. Okay. So they must just have something new in mind for the second one, because there's not a lot of plot left.
I wonder if there are any more backstory scenes that they're going to add to, maybe change the lore a little bit from Frank Baum's book, a series. I don't know.
I've seen in some of the trailer, and I'm not a trailer watcher. I like to go in and be surprised. But in the trailer, sometimes you just see stuff pop up. It looks like there's a wedding scene for presumably Glinda and Fiyero, but that doesn't happen in the play. And it's been a long time since I read the book. I actually didn't like the book. I found the book to be very heavy and very dark, and just very dense. I should read it again because it's been a very long time, but I remember loving the story in the play, and just finding it to be so much more streamlined and digestible than the book.
When did you read the book? Because I think age might have something to do with it, considering the oddities in the wordplay that Baum used, right?
Yeah.
So I could imagine. So I'll back up a little bit. So we watched it in the theater last November. Much like what we're gonna do this year, it's opening around my daughter's birthday because it's a Thanksgiving release, and her birthday is around Thanksgiving, and many years on Thanksgiving because she was born on Thanksgiving. So we're probably going to go see it in the theater again. I don't know about you, Jill, but we are a subtitle family.
Okay.
And so we pretty much watch everything with subtitles on it. I think the only thing that I don't put subtitles on are YouTube videos because most of those are auto-generated, and so they're typically bad. But anything that's produced is going to get a good set of captions most of the time. And so that's what we do. We have captions on everything. So I'm sitting there in the theater last November going, Pronounceify? What are you talking about? And so, especially early in the movie where you're getting introduced to a lot of these characters, and if you hadn't seen the play like me, you're kind of like trying to play catch up a little bit, and you're kind of like, okay, this person's characterization, blah, blah, blah. But then you're trying to follow also all of the words that are goofy because they are supposed to be fantastical, right? It's this place that is close to the quote unquote real world, but not, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of like Middle Earth or whatever.
Yeah.
And so watching it again for preparing for this podcast, looking at all of the words and how they were spelled and all of that, I can imagine reading the book as a younger person would probably be very tiring.
Could be. And the pronunciations, I think, come across better in the spoken medium than in a read medium. So in the play and the movie, they're funny and they're light and they're silly because someone else is doing the work of figuring them out for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder if that had anything to do. So I'd be interested.
I just did a very quick search of my Goodreads, and when I read Wicked predates when I started tracking the years, so it had to have been before 2009. So it's been a while.
I love it.
What? What are you staring at? Do I have something in my teeth?
No, it's just... You're green.
I am. Fine. Let's get this over with. No, I am not seasick. No, I did not eat grass as a child. And yes, I've always been green.
Well, I, for one, am so sorry that you have been forced to live with this.
Is that so?
Yes. And it is my intention to major in sorcery. So if at some point you wanted to address the, problem. Perhaps I could help.
She's so good.
We love you.
All right.
Offering to help someone that you don't know with skills that you don't have. I'm sure everyone is duly impressed.
I could care less what others think.
Couldn't.
What?
You couldn't care less what other people think. Though I doubt that.
Elphaba Throp!
This is my younger sister, Nessa Rose. As you can see, she's a perfectly acceptable color.
Stop making a spectacle of yourself.
how did that come across?
I don't see colors.
Let's just jump into the psych of it, shall we? Because
Sounds good.
I think moving from play to movie to book and all of those media, we can just like start dissecting what we find. So, you had mentioned listening to the soundtrack and you're like, nature versus nurture. That's a phenomenal. What are some of the other things that you find to be useful when talking about this in a psychological sense?
So I'm a developmental psychologist by training,
Mhm.
and specifically adolescent social development. So
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the peer relationships and the social status and the high school dynamics. And I mean, Shiz is a glamorous high school, but it is still essentially as a high school or a college. It's hard to tell. But there's
Shiz University.
university, so it's probably a college, but a lot of the same kind of peer dynamics. And so that's what jumped out for me. There is quite literally a song called Popular. And when I teach adolescent development the week that I cover peer relationships and social status, that's the song I play at the beginning of class, right? It's literally an ode to popularity, but it's a very tongue-in-cheek ode to popularity and what makes someone popular and why. So that's one of the big things that I see kind of off the bat is those peer relationships.
So let's dive right into that, because I think there's a lot there, right?
Mm-hmm.
We meet a lot of these characters as they are. Kind of hard to tell what age university students are in Oz, but let's do a little bit of assumption making and say that let's just say they're 18 years old, right?
They're late adolescents.
Or late adolescents, early young adulthood, emerging adulthood, as many more recent developmental psychologists would argue, right?
Mm.
So they're learning to navigate this new world, right? And so what are some of the struggles that you clock in these characters' lives as they're entering Shiz?
So, I mean, let's talk about the obvious one. Elphaba's green, right?
Elphaba's green.
Let's like take the low-hanging fruit here. And she's the only green person, presumably in Oz. The developmental literature is very clear, especially in adolescence. Anything that sets you apart, makes you stand out, makes you look different, instantly puts you at risk for being targeted by your peers. It's the easy thing for them to come after you for.
Right.
But she's prepared for that, right? She's over-prepared for that. She is defensive about that. From the very beginning, she doesn't wait for people to bully her. She gets it right out in the open. And there's a scene right when Elphaba and her sister Nessa Rose get to Shiz, and everybody looks at her and kind of gasps. And she says, let's just do this, right? Like, no, I didn't chew grass as a child. No, I'm not. She's very defensive about it.
Yeah, I really love her. She's defensive about it, but it is also aggressive and combative as well, because she's had to deal with it her entire life. So the green skin almost is also scaly, reptilian, leathery, because it acts as she basically uses the color of her skin as a formidable defense mechanism.
Yep.
Even though it sets her apart. What are your thoughts about the dynamics of the characters as they arrive to Shiz? So, to sort of set up this question a little bit more, Glinda comes off as a spoiled brat in my mind, and she's immediately, people are immediately gravitated toward her, and it's the opposite for Elphaba. Everybody basically gives her a wide berth. Right. So what other kind of dynamics do you see among these students as they're arriving, and we get these early glimpses of their classes and their dorm lives?
So from the beginning, it's sort of the stereotypical, beautiful, popular girl. You have the stereotypical outcast. You also see, we get the backstory before they get to Shiz, but we see the relationship between Elphaba and her sister. She's very protective over her sister.
Right.
So there's that as well. You see the other kids, university students, start to gravitate towards Glinda. She has these two close friends. I'm not sure their names off the top of my head, but these two close friends that instantly gravitate towards them. It's not clear if they were friends before, if they just met and suddenly kind of gravitate.
I say that
her.
in the intro. So, folks, just a minor production note here. Jill has no idea what I said in the intro.
Oh, I do not.
And that's exactly what I said.
Well, okay. Glad it's not just me.
It's not clear that they know each other. And they just they just like seem like they've been friends for years. It didn't make sense to me, but even if they weren't friends with her for a really long time, they immediately gravitated toward her and they're like, we are going to be your followers. We are devoted to thee. What about Elphaba and her initial experiences at Shiz?
Well, she wasn't supposed to go to Shiz. She's just there with her father to drop off her sister. So Nessa Rose is supposed to be the student. And you see the dynamic between Elphaba and Nessa and their father. He's very protective of Nessa. She's clearly the favored child, and he's not subtle about it. There's nothing subtle about it. He clearly dislikes Elphaba immensely.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, he gets very protective over Nessa and asks Elphaba, or Nessa doesn't ask, he tells Elphaba, stay with her.
Yeah.
Go to this school. So she was never even supposed to be there to begin with. So all of the interactions she's having, she wasn't prepared for that in any way. It's hard enough to go to a new school when you're prepared for it, but she wasn't expecting that to happen. So she's kind of launched into the fray.
Right. Does Elphaba and Glinda's relationship represent, in your mind, a sort of yin and yang, sort of like a competing peer relationships where one brings one thing and the other brings the exact opposite, complementary?
Yeah,
in
you
many
could
ways.
make that argument, but the adolescent literature tends to talk more about selection effects and similarity effects. We tend to gravitate towards the people we're similar to, and we tend to bond over shared common interests. And then as we find this group and as we spend time with this group, we all become more similar over time. So this kind of goes against that, if anything. It's definitely more of an opposites attract kind of thing, which does happen. I'm not saying that doesn't happen.
Sure.
Isn't the more common approach. They have very little in common, really.
Except magic, maybe.
Maybe, but Glinda, it's not made super clear, but you're really supposed to guess that Glinda doesn't have any magic. She just wants to.
And she makes the argument that magic is, something that you don't need a wand for, but is remarkably motivated by this wand that Morrible gives her.
Yeah, but more than that, Glinda is used to getting her way. She is used to changing forging the path to be what she wants it to be. And you get the sense that when she doesn't get into the sorcery class, and when she eventually does get the training wand but struggles with it, this is the first time that she's failed at something. She's not used to failing. This is a very attractive girl, comes from a privileged family, good, her parents, we don't know if they're good parents, but they clearly love her, maybe not in the most adaptive, developmentally appropriate ways, but they clearly love her. She has friends, she has status, she gets the boy she wants. This woman is not used to failing. And so this is the first time that not only is she not getting her way, but she's watching this other person who in her eyes has nothing, right? What is Elphaba compared to me? I'm Glinda. Elphaba is with very little effort getting this thing that Glinda wants very badly. So we may not see traditional peer friendships, we definitely see competition and that struggle for dominance.
And that shifts later. It shifts in midpoint of the film, which is, I would imagine, more or less the midpoint of the play. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Maybe a little bit before intermission.
A bit before. Yeah. It comes a bit sooner.
Okay. Into like this, as you said, opposite attract. I think let's roll with that idea, right?
Sure.
That opposites, and I think the original way that I had set this up was like yin and yang, right? They are opposites in but at the same time, I think they want the same thing, which is very competitive coded.
Yeah, well, and then once you throw a boy into the mix, and then they want the same boy, and then an added layer of competition, and that is kind of what we see in adolescence, particularly.
Sure. And emerging adulthood for
Sure.
You come through that. You have to go through all of that, right?
Indeed.
I want to focus a little bit on the green skin aspect for a second, because it is something that sets Elphaba apart from pretty much everyone. And we're not entirely sure exactly how she has green skin. There's ideas at least presented in the first film. Maybe it's explored in the second film, but there's this elixir that her mother drank when her mother was having an affair, and maybe that contributed to it. But she is by herself. And we were talking about social mobility, we'll call it, right? and rejection. Perhaps we can call it ostracism as well, especially at the beginning of the movie. The scene in Dillamond's class that we first meet Dillamond, and he hilariously tries to pronounce Galinda. I think he does a great job, to be honest with you, because it's a G sound that he's trying to do, but he's also a goat. You know, he's gonna bleat. But we get this like back and forth relational aggression, right? Ooh, the artichoke is steamed. Maybe he doesn't really care about your name so much as like all of the other things that are going on in his life. Back and forth, this kind of tit for tat. But we see a difference though, because nobody's sitting there going, ooh, Elphaba, great comeback or whatever. No, it's always, ooh, excellent, ha 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 ha, Galinda, that was so funny. And we see as they're singing this feeling. Is that the name of the song? This
Loathing, is it? I'm not sure. I've always called it Loathing, but it might be What Is This Feeling?
Yeah. And so we get these vignettes or whatever. And so her green skin is sort of like the bash you over the head kind of, and obviously it goes all the way back to the Baum books, but bash you over the head kind of, she's green and therefore different.
1, 2, 3.
That was it.
And it's perfect.
Sweet Oz. Am I not the most scandalous little fish in the sea?
The most. Pierre's gonna lose what's left of his mind. I mean, we nailed it.
Now hurry up.
Okay, I
Can't
may
believe
have
this
to
boy
log
knows how to get into the Oz Dust Ballroom.
And that we just happened to cross paths today. Am I right?
Ew. What even is that?
Galinda? What's the reason?
I know. It's my granny. She always makes me the most hideous hats. I'd give it away, but I don't hate anyone that much. I couldn't. Could I? No.
Hi.
We should go.
Yeah, we have to go rouge our knees. Yeah.
Super rude.
Right. Bye,
I do it every
Elphaba.
day.
Love you from the shoulder back.
You just always look just a joy.
Good. Joyful.
Galinda, Nessa and I were talking about you just now, and
Oh, well, we were just talking about you. How you should join us tonight.
I don't follow.
You join us at the Ozdust. I'm inviting you.
Why?
Well, because everyone will be there. And don't tell me you have nothing to wear. Because you could wear this. I mean, it goes with everything you own. It's really sharp, don't you think? You know, black is this your stink. You deserve each other, this hat and you. You're both so smart. You deserve each other, so here, out of the goodness of my heart.
And so what are some of the things that when you explain maybe to your students, what are some of the things that you talk about with respect to like some of the inputs and then outcomes for things like social exclusion?
So for teenagers, kind of as I mentioned this earlier, it can be anything. It can be wearing glasses. It can be not wearing glasses. It can be physically going through puberty early. It can be going through puberty late. It can be being overweight, being underweight. It can really be, a lot of it depends on kind of the cohort that you're living in, whatever makes you different. Now, for Elphaba, doesn't matter where you're comparing her against. She's the only green one. So she's really got that kind of working against her. But when we talk about teens not in Oz, it can really be anything. And in terms of the adjustment outcomes, again, a lot depends, right? Individual difference and all that. But we see internalizing behaviors. We see depression, loneliness, anxiety, where people sort of turn inwards. But we also see externalizing behaviors where people might lash out. Elphaba's interesting because she does both.
She does both. Yeah. I want to hang on those two. So what are some of the internalizing stuff that she does?
It's very subtle, and you don't necessarily see it as much as I think you're supposed to feel it for her, right? And there's the scene in the ballroom, which is one of my favorite scenes because I think it's just really powerful, where she's dancing kind of in this ridiculous way, and Fiyero whispers to Glinda, I'll say this one thing about her. She doesn't care what anyone thinks. And Glinda kind of looks at him like he's crazy. He goes, of course she does. She just pretends not to.
Yeah.
So you don't really necessarily see her doing the internalizing, but she is. And she's lonely. She has to be lonely. And she covers for that by trying to, well, if I push everybody away and they hate me because I'm green, we're talking about attributions, right? If we make an external attribution, if they hate me because I'm green, then them not liking me isn't anything about my personality or anything about me personally. It's because of this other thing.
Yeah.
That's easier to swallow.
And so what are some of the externalizing things that she does to, especially to people?
She lashes out. To be fair, her aggression tends to be much more reactive. She doesn't pick most of the fights. But she's reactive, and so she fights back against Glinda and the rest of the cronies when they are unkind to her. You don't really see her engage in much aggression, but it is definitely the verbal kind of lashing out. And just kind of the general demeanor of just she puts off this very hostile sort of approach, but I think that's back to that attribution point.
Yeah, and I think carrying that a little bit, one thing that I noticed, and I think they can do this a lot easier with a film because of sound mixing and all of that stuff, but her magic becomes really, really powerful when she gets this like deep anger, like this resentment almost, which fuels a lot of her power. And there's a really powerful scene, and the sound mixing plays a role in this because it's a gradual buildup. She's with Marble. Marble wants her to make a coin float or something like that, just to levitate a coin, and she's struggling to do it. And Marble's like, it just takes time, maybe goading her a little bit in some subtle ways. Marble is quite horrible when it comes down to it, and I wonder if that's some wordplay that Baum was very open about. But then she starts getting upset by various interpersonal issues that she's been having, and the sound mixing sort of gets this like slow rumble that you could get with an orchestra for a play, but I think it works as more subtly in the film. And then all of a sudden, there's a crescendo. The coin shoots to the other side of the room and smashes through a glass case, and it's just floating there. And it just stays there, and she's not even trying. So that's a very external way of processing her emotions.
But it's not uncommon in media to see, especially in media that has magic. It's not uncommon to see emotions and magic be deeply linked. Twist of, I don't know if this is irony or what. Elsa from Frozen is very much the same way, also voiced by Idina Menzel, which is why it's funny, but very much the same way that her magic is deeply tied to her emotions.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon, and that's not unsurprising.
Do you think, this just popped in my head, do you think that's gendered?
My initial reaction was that you think that would be more of a male thing, if anything, because men are more free in society to express their emotions, particularly negative emotions, without repercussion.
Yeah.
When women do it, they're hysterical.
Yeah.
So if anything, it flies against gendered norms, but I'm not sure. I want to keep thinking about that.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll add to that is, and what prompted the question is because, and I think it fits with what you just described, because there is a sense of shame for Elphaba, especially in this coin scene, when she does it, and even earlier in the movie when she's trying to protect Nessa from being overly doted upon. Because she knows her sister can't handle herself and do the things that she wants to do. And she's very apologetic when she oversteps her helping. And then she makes everything like scatter or whatever. And Marble says, "Oh, no, that was me." Yeah, okay. I know she was doing it to hide, but we'll see. And I don't know if this is revealed or not, or if it's up to the consumer's imagination. But it doesn't strike me that Marble is actually a magical person.
No, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to assume she is. She does do some weather magic at some point. She talks about how weather is her speciality. And I think, I don't know if this is ever said definitively. I'll be curious to see what they do in the second movie. You're supposed to think that it's her tornado that brings Dorothy. I'm not sure if they will get explicit with that in the second one. I'll be very curious. But she does have magic. She just doesn't have enough magic.
Okay. And she can't read the Grimmery.
And nobody can read the Grimmery.
Yeah, except for Elphaba, but there's a lot of Ben Haas. I was saying this is such a digression, but I was saying this to my wife last night as we were finishing the film, and when she reads the Grimmery, it's like Ben Ha this, Ben Ha that, Ben Ha this, Benha that. It's just Benha and then some other syllable. And I'm like, man, Baum just like got lazy with this. In any case, to go back to my original point with the differences between emotion and magic as sort of a gendered popular culture thing. Men, to me, when they express magic in a emotional way, don't necessarily feel shame, but are two women examples. And listeners, if you have other examples that are counter examples, absolutely love to hear it. It's just striking me right now that for both Elphaba and for Elsa in Frozen, that they feel shame when they use their magic in an unfettered emotional way, uncontrolled. Yeah. That they're like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I shouldn't do that again.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's how it was meant to be, but also like placing these characters in the time period in which they were written. Yes, they've been updated. Like the play was a more modern writing, the movie more modern still. But setting these characters in where they were when they were first created, that was very much the gendered traditional roles that they had to be, and especially these younger women that we're talking about. And it's just something that popped into my mind.
Yeah. No, I'll do a Saikai blog post about gender and magic. We can collaborate.
That would be amazing. I would love that. Yeah, gender and magic.
Miss Linda!
Yes.
Why does wickedness happen?
That's a good question. One many people find confusifying. Are people born wicked? Or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? After all, the Wicked Witch had a childhood. She had a father, who, by the way, had been appointed governor of Munchkinland.
I'm off to the assembly, dear.
And she had a mother, as so many do.
How I hate to go and leave you lonely.
That's all right, it's only just one night.
But know that you're here in my heart while I'm out of your sight.
Like every family, they had their secrets.
Have another drink, my dark-eyed beauty. I've got one more night left here in town. So have another drink of green elixir, and we'll have ourselves a little mixer. Have another little swallow, little lady, and follow me down.
And one thing led to another, as it so often does. But from the moment the witch was born, she was... well, different.
It's coming.
Now!
The baby's coming.
And how?
I see a nose.
I see a curl. It's a healthy, perfect, lovely little sweetheart. Oh.
What is it? What's wrong? How can it be?
What does it mean?
It's uncanny.
It's obscene. Like a froggy, ferny cabbage, the baby is unnaturally green.
So I want to come back to something that you said at the top, which is a age-old question in psychology, which is nature versus nurture. Are people born wicked, or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? Before we jump into the psychology of it all, what would be your answer to Glinda's rhetorical question?
Elphaba's behavior is almost exclusively a product of her environment. It's Hollywood, so the examples are going to be more clear-cut than in reality.
Yeah.
I mean, look at her upbringing. This girl has faced nothing but crap since childhood.
Childbirth.
It's not childbirth. True. She was born
what is that? Oh,
right. She was quite literally rejected from. It was very dramatic.
Yeah.
Quite literally rejected from birth. I would challenge anybody to be raised in that environment and not show signs of like externalizing signs of rejection.
Yeah.
She actually, all things considered, is remarkably well adjusted.
Yeah.
When she gets
absolutely.
She's kind, she's empathetic, she clearly has a strong relationship with her sister. Like, that to me is deeply unrealistic. Right. And then on top of the rejection from her family, she's rejected by her peers. And then she's ultimately rejected by her society. Of course she becomes wicked. Who wouldn't? But you can never completely rule out the effects of nature, right? You can never completely, it's never one or the other. It's really how they work together.
Yeah.
But in this case, come on, you are supposed to conclude that she was made wicked.
Yeah, she became the wicked, and in some ways maybe more misunderstood than this term wicked, right? So in classic storytelling parlance, she is a tragic figure, right? She's our protagonist because the story is hers, but she is a tragic figure. She's a tragic hero. And Wicked, I think, does obviously is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, essentially with a lot of tropes and themes of early nature versus nurture media, like The Bad Seed, which is a terrible movie, but it does ask a very important question, which is, are like people born with it? Or maybe is it Maybelline, you know? So, but I don't think she's evil.
Oh no, there's a scene later, I think it's during Defying Gravity, now I'm blanking on what song it is, where she pretty much says, you want me to be wicked? You've pushed me to be wicked? Fine, I'll be what you want me to be. She never wanted that. She's just responding to, she really doesn't have a lot of choice. She gets backed into the corner. And she's basically like, fine, if you're going to hate me, then I'm going to live my life and do what I want to do and screw all of you.
Yeah, and I think that's I don't know. In many ways, I want to say that seems like an appropriate reaction, especially with what happens at the wizard's palace.
She lasts a lot longer than I would. I would have snapped a lot before that. I mean, she is deeply resilient, and you have to wonder where that resilience comes from, because she doesn't have any of the protective factors, at least at first. Eventually, Glinda becomes a protective factor, but that's not at first. That takes time. So she's remarkably resilient for somebody who's been through all of the adversity that she's been through.
Yeah.
Literally rejected at birth.
Yep. Ugh. And even the allegory, the parallels of the animals being used as scapegoats. And as you pointed out in our notes, pun intended.
Pun intended.
Even they are disgusted by her green skin at her birth. Like, ugh. And it's only one of the animals who takes care of her because the father doesn't really want to. I don't know
that I ever read that the animals read it as they were disgusted. I read that they were surprised.
Okay.
There's definitely a moment of shock. I mean, that is shocking, right? Like, in a culture, as you mentioned, Oz is not all that different from the world that we know. A baby being born green would shock anybody. I more got the sense that the animals were following their employers. Right, so they're clearly employed by Elphaba's father, who's disgusted, and so they're kind of more following the leader, right? Social conformity rather than actually feeling. We don't know, right? We don't get a lot of insight into that. But
and we don't get a lot of backstory with those animals either, except for is it a cow?
It's a bear.
A bear. Sorry, yeah. It's just funny watching a anatomically correct bear walk on its two hind legs bipedally. I've for some reason just focused on that when you see the bear take Elphaba as a baby down the hallway, and you're just watching this bear walk away from you, and you're like, man, they did a lot of work to make that look super goofy. So one of the other spoilers that I think is fine for Wicked for Good on this particular idea, this particular point about nature versus nurture, is we are a bit in the dark in this first film about Elphaba's parentage. We know who her mother is because we see the birth, and it is Governor Throp's wife, but she has also been having an affair with a mystery man. And the mystery man comes to her every once in a while, especially when the governor is out, and gives her this elixir in this green bottle. Can you explain a little bit more of this lore?
Yeah, so mom's having an affair with this person. We find out in the second movie, or astute fans who are watching the first movie may have picked up on this. It's the wizard, right? It's Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
And so Elphaba's power comes from the fact that she's a child of two worlds. Because the wizard, if you are familiar with Wizard of Oz lore, is not from Oz. He's from Earth. He's from Kansas.
He's from I thought he was from Omaha.
Is he from, maybe Dorothy's from Kansas. Maybe that's what I'm getting mixed up.
Yeah.
But he's from Earth is the short
he's from the United States. Yeah.
Yes. So Elphaba is a child of two worlds. And so we're never sure why her skin is green, but it's definitely a manifestation of the power that she has, and it's symbolic to that green vial, whatever the wizard and her mom were drinking. Right?
Yeah.
Clearly got into the system.
I'm so curious about what it was, because there are green liquors. You can get a green liquor in wherever. I forgot what the name of it is called.
But was the liquor green or was the bottle green? Because
that's also, yeah. So the bottle is definitely green.
Right.
What was inside of it is unclear. If it was also green, green just
symbolic.
Green, yeah, and then green also has some symbolic nature to the color as well, right? So green is a color of disgust.
Right, jealousy.
And jealousy and all sorts of negatively connotative words, right? So and I think disgust is probably the biggest one that you would want to take away from that. And because if you are someone who is considered wicked, then or evil, I mean, evil is probably more associated with red, like the devil and all of that stuff. But the wicked part, I think, which again, I'm separating from somebody who is truly evil, you get more of a sense of disgust, like going all the way back to the earliest part of our discussion when we were invoking the "you're green, I am," interaction between Glinda and Elphaba at Shiz. So I'm thinking that the elixir had something to do with it, and you're absolutely right. If you watch this movie as closely as you should be, or the play, I imagine, that you cannot miss it as as Jeff Goldblum's voice made younger, made softer. It's just the way he says things. It's unmistakable, in my opinion. So it's not a surprise to me that he ultimately is her father.
And going back, to the nature versus nurture question, right? The wizard, we learn in the first movie, he lies, he's impulsive, he's violent, he's willing to condone violence. So that does, though, reopen the nature versus nurture question, right? If this is her biological father, there is the possibility that, we're conjecturing slightly, but there is the possibility that she inherited some of his tendencies towards impulsivity, dishonesty, cultural genocide, whatnot.
Oh my goodness!
You are supposed to conclude that she is made wicked. Like that's the conclusion you're supposed to come to. But we can't ignore that piece. And I think that's true of the larger nature versus nurture question when applied to other aspects of psychology. It may lean more one or more the other, but you can never discount one. It's always both.
It is always both. And I think that's an important thing to say when we talk about these things, because even though there are pieces of evidence in psychological literature and history of one or the other, when it comes down to it, we are both a product of our genes and those genes acting in a space, right? And you cannot remove either of those things from one or the other.
Right. I tell my students when I teach about this that the question, which is more important, nature versus nurture, is just a bad question.
Yeah.
The better question is, how do nature and nurture work together to influence our development?
What is the nature of the interaction between these two things, right?
I knew she had the power. I told you.
Elfie, this is a sound Defying.
It's just what we hoped for. Eyes in the skies.
Yes, they'll make perfect spies. Spies.
Elphaba?
Elfie!
You're right, that's a very harsh word. Oh, scouts! What about scouts? Because they're going to be flying around Oz reporting back on any seditious animal activity.
Seditious animal activity? What does that mean?
Elfie, I'm sure the wizard has a good reason.
It's you. You're behind all of this. You're the reason why people are turning against the animals. It's all because of you.
We're doing this to keep people safe. All of us will benefit.
And you've known all along. Since the day you met me.
You will benefit too, dearie. You must trust me.
Don't!
Elphaba, when I first got here, there was discord. There was discontent. And back where I come from, everybody knows that the best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy.
If you wanted spies, why wouldn't you just make them yourself?
Elphaba! Elphaba! You are talking to the Wizard of Oz!
Read it. Cast a spell. Read it!
Alphaba.
Don't! You can't, can you? Can you? That's why you need all of this. And you need spies and animals in cages and an enemy. You have no real power.
Exactly. That's why I need you.
Think of your future, dearie.
Stay back.
Elfie, listen to them. Please.
Good advice, young lady. Listen, Alphaba, if you can pull this off, first crack out of the box, oh my golly, I can't even imagine. And I meant every word about you having a home here. It's gonna be you and me, and hey, if it'd make you happy, possibly your friend.
Really?
Why not?
No.
Alphaba! You want to do yourself some good?
Get some back.
Elfie! Elfie!
One of the other things that I spotted very early on in the movie, as we continue talking about the interactions of these, I wanted to focus on Alphaba. So during her first day at Shiz, where she thinks that she's just going to be there to get her sister set up and then she's heading back home, ultimately she's Morable's like, I just saw what you did there and you're enrolling in this school, don't worry, I'll tell your dad. And so she has this solo, what was the name of that song again?
That's The Wizard and I.
The Wizard and I.
It's the first time Cynthia Erivo sings.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So throughout that entire song, she's jumping, she's happy, she gets a little bit of a lift when she's running through this high grass field to the bluffs of Shiz down into the ocean. I got this massive sense of like her entire journey is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then I was just like, oh my God, this is absolutely the hierarchy of needs, because Defying Gravity for me represents her self-actualization, which could be the acceptance of being quote unquote wicked, right? This is what you want me to be, so I'll go ahead and be it. But also, like, I can fly now, and eventually I'm going to convert these flying monkeys to my side. So good luck with that, guys. We're all going to fly and you can't. So for the listeners who may be unfamiliar with the hierarchy of needs, Maslow created this hierarchy, this triangular structure of various needs that a person must have, and where the bottom parts of the hierarchy must be met before any other level of the hierarchy can be attained. And so at the beginning of the movie, we see Alphaba is very concerned with her appearance, whether she shows it or not. I think there is a concern there. So there's, the physiology concern, as Maslow would put it, but then there's also safety concerns, right? So being ostracized does come with safety concerns, because as humans, being a social animal, we get safety from being with others around us. And then she moves on throughout this particular narrative by then getting those by being able to go to Shiz, and then eventually belongingness. Her and Glinda get to become besties, and esteem, right? She first had a father who is demeaning and demanding, and then she ends up with an invitation by the wizard, right? And then she sings Defying Gravity, which in my mind is a good representation, a good portrayal, so to speak, of self-actualization. What are your thoughts on this, Jill?
Yeah, I had mentioned, we chatted briefly about this before we started recording, and I said I would have never thought of this, so I'm glad that you put it into this framework for me. She also gets her esteem needs met by Madame Morrible, at least before we find out that Madame Morrible is not on her side. But this Alphaba grew up without parents, without really much love or praise or any sort of positive attention. She mentions early on when she starts singing during the song The Wizard and I, this gift or this curse that I had inside. Like she refers to her magic as a curse. She's saying, actually, it is something good. And so Madame Morrible, through teaching Elphaba how to use her magic, Elphaba's getting affirmation. She's getting praise. She's this quirk that made me weird actually is a gift. It actually makes me powerful.
Yeah.
And so she gets those esteem needs met.
Yeah, and I think it builds a related researcher to a lot of this stuff, Albert Bandura and Self-Efficacy. Yes, that Albert Bandura who did the Bobo doll study. This is some of his other work. I think those esteem needs being met does give her a chance to feel more confidence in her abilities to do stuff, which culminates in her ability to read the Grimoire and then figuring out that neither Morrible nor the wizard can read it themselves. And so she's like, well, I'm taking this book because both of you can't do it anything with it anyways. And so like it reaches a crescendo of self-efficacy because she's able to do that. And I don't know if she would have been able to do that had she, as you said, not been validated by Morrible.
Right. And I've thought a bit about why is Elphaba able to resist and Glinda isn't, because very much at the end of the first movie, during Defying Gravity, Elphaba is like, absolutely not. I'm not having any of this. When she figures out that the wizard is behind everything,
right.
Her idealizing of this man, and she does idealize him. She's done, right? She pretty much says no more. And it's Glinda who's saying, but it's Glinda who's saying, come on, Elfie, like we can still be with the wizard. It can still be okay. And so why does Elphaba, the one who has been rejected and shunned and pushed aside her whole life, why does she have the strength and the courage to resist this obedience to authority is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
Where Glinda, who has everything, doesn't. And I was asked to review a paper on Wicked. It was an anthropology paper, so I didn't understand a lot of the theory. But this is something I thought about as I was reviewing that paper. Glinda has everything. Elphaba has nothing. And so it's easy to hate on Glinda for being weak. But really, the ones who have nothing, Elphaba had nothing left to lose. So standing to her principles and having that moment of self-actualization, it costs her less in some ways. I feel like Glinda does get vilified as going along with it. She very much conforms. And we'll see this quite a bit more in the second movie.
Okay.
Now that things have split, right? Now that they've made their choice.
Right.
And then they sing about that in Defying Gravity, right? Like, I hope you're happy now that you're choosing this. Like, they're very clearly Elphaba and Glinda singing to each other about, like, you're making this choice. Okay, I'm going down a different path. And you see it. Well, I think we'll see quite a bit in the second movie how Glinda really falls into line with the oppressive regime of the wizard. But she had so much more to lose. So it's at first it's tempting to hate her for it or to vilify her. But you have to remember that she had so much to lose, whereas Elphaba didn't. I know that's not to excuse, right? We should always stand up against authoritarian behavior, but it explains it a little bit more, puts it a bit more into context.
It's funny that you mention authoritarian behavior because with all of the stuff that's going around in the world, especially in the United States right now, I love Jeff Goldblum, but the wizard is a bit of a fascist.
Oh, more than a bit. I mean, it's textbook oppression, right? Dr. Dillerman, the history teacher, he talks about what happened. There was a drought, and when there's a drought or when there's some sort of like natural catastrophe, everybody looks for someone to blame, to scapegoat, and so the animals were chosen. I mean, that's textbook genocide. I mean, they're not killing the animals; they're just oppressing them. But it's textbook choosing one group to marginalize and place all the blame on.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's Jeff Goldblum. That's the wizard. He's
and he even states it as such. But even before that, when he's trying to butter up Elphaba and Glinda by talking about his vision for Oz and his Jeff Goldblum's little musical number, it does have tinges of my way or the highway kind of stuff, right? And then that sort of bleeds in with, well, what he says to Elphaba after she figures out that he can't read the Grimoire. And he's like, people need an enemy and I'm giving it to them. And it's like, dude, you're not even from Oz.
Yep.
And you come here and you come here and you're taking on this moniker of almost king. if you will, because
Yeah.
he commands guards. He has this like big old face that he uses, and he rules by fear too.
It's somewhat impressive if you really think about it. He has no magic. He bluffs his way all the way to the top of this society. Like, he really does just literally appear in a balloon and then take over. It's kind of impressive.
Yeah, and what was the name of that? There was the film that
Oz the Great and Powerful.
The Oz Great and Powerful with James Franco as Oz and or the Wizard, excuse me. And they explore this backstory a little bit. He's essentially just a con man.
Yes.
So the parallels to our current world right now are just maybe a little too much for, art imitating reality. To be vague and ambiguous about everything that I'm talking about. Yes, exactly. I mean, I think throughout history, you can pull out most authoritarian strongmen who have led countries through fascist regimes. Adolf Hitler, for one thing. Absolutely. Just a straight up grifter who had a beef and was just able to climb through the ranks because he wrote a book. The book appealed to people. He had been in the military, so he knew how that structure worked. So he weaseled his way up just by grifting, and it all caught up to him in 1945. And he's like, well, I can't grift my way out of this one anymore. And I think that's very true of guys like Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot, all throughout history. There are these people. So I'm not entirely placing it on all modern time stuff right now, because it's very easy playbook to follow.
Sure, for sure.
So I have a final fun question for you, Jill.
Okay.
So there is this fan theory that's going around. So for folks who haven't seen The Wizard of Oz, where have you been? But if you haven't, at the end of the movie, the conflict is resolved between the Wicked Witch and Dorothy by her splashing water on her. And she goes, "Oh, I'm anting." And
iconic.
It's very dramatic. And she does melt her. They have Margaret Hamilton fall through or go down into a little like space, old magician's trick, right? Go down into the floor in a pool of water. And that's how Wicked begins. It's like one of the first images that you see is the famous witch's hat, and a pool of water. So a bit of a late episode spoiler here. It's entirely possible that Elphaba is not dead. I'm gonna leave it like that. And so that means that it's entirely possible that Margaret Hamilton's character in The Wizard of Oz did not die when Dorothy splashed the water on her and then clicked her heels and was like, "I'm home." So the fan theory goes like this: the higher the pitch that Glinda sings, especially her opening song in Munchkinland when she takes her bubble plane, the more she is lying, these fans say. So the highest pitch, and my wife had told me about this fan theory while we were watching the song. And so I was sort of tracking the remaining Ariana Grande pitches throughout the rest of the movie. And luckily I had seen the movie already. Like, I wasn't having to pay attention to that, and then also plot details and things like that. So the higher the pitch, the more she is lying. So a lower register, not lying; a high register, lying. And so, in many ways, the entire intro song is a lie for the benefit of the people of Oz.
Right. Well, that's the song "No One Mourns the Wicked."
No one mourns the wicked. Thank you. That some of these titles, I'm just gonna set the stage for the song, but I'm not gonna remember the title. But you're right, though. The titles do mean stuff in musical theater, right? You title songs to carry some thematic weight. It's not the same. It has a different mode than just like naming a song that's meant to just be music. I think musical theater, you do this on purpose.
They're also, the songs move the plot points along, so knowing which song does make it.
Exactly. And so I appreciate you jumping in there with the name of the song.
Sure.
So what do you think of this fan theory, Jill?
We were talking about this earlier, and I don't know that I have an opinion. To be honest, I don't know that I've noticed. I have definitely heard this theory. I think that would be very clever, but it also, most of the rest of the story is very intentional. I mean, the song "For Good" is very intentional, and the way that the lyrics are written for good has double meaning, right? Like I've been changed for good, I've been changed for the better, but also like good as the opposite of wicked. So
right.
a lot of the choices, the musical choices, were very intentional. So I guess from that argument, sure, maybe, but lying isn't like a theme of Wicked.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I appreciate that perspective.
I could go either way.
Is it so it's not an overt theme, but there is a lot of lying. I think Marble does most of it.
There's like a lot of lying in every movie. That's where all of the interesting plot comes from.
Yeah, sure. But Elphaba's mother does lying as well.
The wizard
lies. Yeah. I find it to be interesting because, yes, in many ways, what's the song about? What's this feeling? I'm not entirely sure if that's the name of the song, or Popular are sung in lower registers. Of course, it does do the vocal ranges of Ariana Grande. It's her ability and her ability alone, of course. And I'm not sure if this is how Kristen Chenoweth or any other later Glinda actresses on Broadway played it this way either, right? Because you not everyone can sing that high and then also hit the notes as well. It's a rare thing to be able to do. And so you could argue that you can gather Glinda is lying just by virtue of her facial expressions.
Right. Yeah.
And so this could be a lot of hindsight bias, knowing the outcome of the story, knowing the outcomes of the books. Obviously, it being a fan theory plays a role into people just, thinking about it in very deep ways. And of course, humans are pattern makers, and so we find patterns in everything. I was just very curious if you had clocked that or not.
I'm inclined to lean towards it's coincidence that fans are reading things into, but
sure.
I also wouldn't mind being wrong because that's very clever. I will rewatch. I think I heard about the theory after the last time I watched it, so maybe the next time I watch it, I'll pay closer attention. But
I'm curious though. Also, in addition, because you have the soundtrack, and I assume you have the original Broadway soundtrack, so that has Kristen Chenoweth as Glinda. I'm curious if that song is also, because Kristen Chenoweth can do that.
Oh yeah, I mean, Glinda's role was written for I'm not a music person, a very, very high soprano. So that's I mean, that's going to be how you hear her portrayed pretty universally. And Ariana Grande does very clearly model a lot of her mannerisms and her expressions off of Kristen Chenoweth's Glinda.
Right.
So yeah, they're very similar.
For someone who hasn't, so somebody who hasn't seen the play and also doesn't know anything from the books, did not read the books. Actually, I tried reading because I believe Baum's works are now in public domain.
Yes.
I tried reading the original stuff because I grabbed those books for free, and I was just like, I can't do this. And so maybe it was the sense that it was so dense. And that this was like 15 years ago or something like that.
Baum's work, I mean, and there's like 100. There's a lot of. It's not just the Wizard of Oz. He really expanded the world.
Right.
There's
exactly
quite a few books. But then Gregory Maguire is who wrote Wicked: The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. So it's a fanfic essentially that went viral. But the Baum books are a lot lighter, if I remember. They're lighter in tone. Wicked is just dense.
Fanfic, I think, does a very good job of describing that then, because it comes later. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. So are we in agreement then that maybe this fan theory is just a bit of a reach?
Yeah, I think so. I'll be curious to see the new song. Maybe that will be what we hang it on because it's new. No one's heard it yet. So I'll be curious to see if the pattern continues. But no, I tend to not go in for fan theories. I tend to think that I like to just watch my media and not overdo it. But I wouldn't mind being wrong because it's clever.
Yeah, it is very clever. And if that's how they did it, I don't think they'd ever tell us though. I don't think Ariana Grande would ever come out and be like, so did you guys catch this? I'm so clever.
Indeed. Well, it wouldn't have been her. It would have been the writers of the music. Right?
It could. It could have been her. She's like, hey guys, what if I sang this high?
No, because that's how the song is always performed.
Okay.
She didn't change. She adds her own twist to it, but the song, the melody, the lyrics, it's very similar to the original.
Gotcha. Well, I want to thank Dr. Jill Swirsky for joining me to discuss Wicked. Before we say goodbye, Jill, is there anything that you would like to share with the listeners? Where can folks find your work?
Sure. So as Alex mentioned earlier, I edit a blog page for Psychi. We publish articles that highlight psychology themes in popular culture. And so I've written several, my students have written several.
Very
Psychi, as many of you know, Psychi is a student organization. So I'm always trying to encourage more students to submit. So if you do any sort of media psych work in your classes, it's a great, very student-friendly place to get a little bit of published writing experience, not peer-reviewed, but published writing experience. So check that out. I also work with a team we are actually studying thematic teaching. So how can we use popular culture to help our students understand not just psychology, but this can be used interdisciplinarily. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Interdisciplinarily as well. So we have a couple papers that recently came out giving advice to faculty who are looking to teach these themed courses.
Okay.
So that's something you're interested in doing. You can check those out for kind of tips and tricks and evidence-based ideas or things to think about and whatnot.
Okay. And I see a link here, and I'd love to link at Sesame Street. What can you say about the Sesame Street materials?
Yeah, that's where my team started. I was kind of the black sheep of the group when I joined because the team was very interested in Sesame Street, and I know that Big Bird is the yellow one and not much else. But so the interest, we're a group of largely developmental psychologists with a special education person in there as well.
Okay.
And the interest was specifically using Sesame Street to teach child development. We have since expanded quite a bit, but one of the original goals of our group was to create a series of open access modules to bring Sesame into your developmental classrooms. So using Sesame Street as a theme to teach about child development. And so those modules, Alex will post the link, but those modules are freely accessible, Creative Commons license.
What would be an example from the Sesame Street set of materials?
Yeah, so I wrote one on teaching about death and dying.
Okay.
There's some really great content in Sesame Street for how children understand death, how to teach about it. I've written a couple on bullying and peer relationships. So there's a lot of content in Sesame Street with where the characters are engaging in violence against one another. And as teaching, as Sesame Street does, it's very like teaching oriented,
playful violence.
But we as college instructors can still use that content to help our students understand this is what aggression is, this is what it looks like.
Okay.
It fits really nicely into a developmental classes. There's ones on gender development. I think we've done them on homelessness. There's all sorts of topics. So check those out and use, share, modify, all of the above.
I will link the blog page for the Psychi, and I did want to share that I gave you a shout out in my talk at this most recent annual conference on teaching because I consider this to be part of the oeuvre of DIY media. That's what my talk was about because I have this podcast, I have my YouTube stuff, but I included what my other colleagues are doing. And I think this is a really useful place, not only for researchers who have the credentials to write about these things, but also, as you say, to have guest students on there writing these blogs, which are researched. Yeah, like you said, they're not peer reviewed, but you know what? You act as the editor and you can guide people in the right directions. Yeah. And of course, these are cited blog posts and they have the research backing. So I think that's absolutely perfect. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that I gave you the shout out there because it's a great blog. If you're interested in podcasts, or if you're interested in popular culture. And then I will also link the Sesame Street OER modules on the show notes as well. So I want to make sure I say that, and they will be available in perpetuity for these two things. So I appreciate you providing the links there. And so thanks again, Jill, for joining me again to talk about musical theater in film form.
Thank you for having me. I'm always down to discuss themes and musicals.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Until the next one, thanks for listening.